Hi, I'm Natasha, and this is Almost Vegan, and today we're making tofu fried rice. Okay, so today we're going to be cooking with tofu. Tofu is one of those ingredients that you either love it or you hate it, or maybe you've never tried it. But for people who have had tofu and don't like it, they describe it as being flavorless, and they're not wrong. The thing about tofu is it has to be prepared right. It has to really be marinated, and because it soaks up the flavor of everything that's around it. So it's really good for things like stir fries and grilling on the barbecue, as long as you marinate it. Tofu is an ingredient that a lot of vegetarians or vegans like to eat because it's an excellent source of protein. It actually has all 9 amino acids, so super high in iron and calcium. So tofu is basically, it comes from the soy plant, and it is curdled soy milk that is pressed, similar to the process of cheese. And then you can buy it either in firm, extra firm, or soft. For things like stir fries and grilling, it's really good to get the extra firm one. If you're making like salad dressings or sauces, you want to get the soft one. So what you should know about tofu is when you buy it, it usually comes in a nice little block like this, and you want to rinse it under the water, and then put it between 2 tea towels. Now these were dry when this started, so they're wet. And then you want to put something really heavy on top. I put my cast iron pan on top, essentially to squeeze out the extra moisture. So you can do this for about an hour at room temperature, or you can do it in the refrigerator overnight. So tofu takes a little bit of preparation. Okay, so this has been like this for over an hour, so I'm going to blot off the extra moisture, and then I'm going to show you how I marinate it. Now, today we're going to be cooking from another one of my very favorite cookbooks, Canadian authors. This is Fraiche Food Full Hearts, and this is Jillian Harris and Tori Wesszer. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. But anyways, I am a super fan of this cookbook. I've cooked a lot of recipes from here, and they have a lot of good tofu recipes. So this one is called Tofu Fried Rice. Okay, so I'll just get this out of the way so we can see what I'm doing here. So we're going to take the tofu now that we've dried it up, and we're going to cut it into 1-inch cubes. So put it like that, and then we're going to put it into a container, nice and snug. So you want the tofu to sort of be packed in there tightly so it can get all the marinade on it. You don't want it to be in too big of a container. And I love cutting tofu because it's weirdly satisfying. It cuts really nicely. Okay, so I'm going to stick it. Here we go. We'll put it in this container, and I might cut it a little smaller because these aren't quite looking 1 inch, so I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so for ingredients for this tofu fried rice, you need 1 pack of tofu. You need some ginger, some carrots, 1 cup of carrots, half a cup of white onion. You need 2 green onions, just the white and the light green parts. You need 1 cup of sliced mushrooms. You need, it says 2 in the recipe book, but I like to put 3 cloves of garlic because I like a lot of garlic. And these things are called garlic scapes. They're really, really good. They're a cross between green onion and garlic. And some people grow them in their garden. I got them at the farmer's market. 1 cup of diced celery. And it calls for green peas, frozen or fresh. I couldn't find any fresh at the grocery store, so I'm using snap peas instead. And this is not in the recipe, but I like to add into my stir fries some water chestnuts. All right, so the marinade calls for soy sauce. If you are gluten-free or gluten sensitive, you can use tamari, which is soy sauce without the gluten. It calls for rice wine vinegar, which can be pretty hard to find at the grocery store, so a really good substitute for that is apple cider vinegar. You need brown sugar, you need sesame oil. I like the toasted sesame oil. You need 2 more cloves of garlic. I put 3, and this is my own adding turmeric. I like to add turmeric into it as well. All right, so now we're going to marinate the tofu. So as you can see, I cut them into 1-inch cubes. So you will need 1/3 cup of soy or tamari. And I'm going to dump this into a measuring cup so I can whisk all my ingredients. So soy sauce has a lot of salt, a lot of sodium. So you do not need to add any extra salt to this recipe because it's going to be salty enough. 1/4 cup of apple cider or rice wine vinegar. Alrighty. You need 1 heaping tablespoon of brown sugar. So we have our sweet and salty together. Then you need 1 tablespoon of sesame oil. Gives it that nice Asian flavor. So then I'm going to mince 3 cloves of garlic. Do it to your liking. I always go really heavy on the garlic because I absolutely love it. Okay, there we go. I put a little shake of turmeric. Again, not in the recipe, but I like to add this. And I also grate some ginger into this part, even though in the recipe book it doesn't include it in the marinade, but I like to include it in the marinade because I love ginger and ginger is so good for you. So you're gonna marinate this. If you have time, you can marinate your tofu for 1 to 2 hours. If you don't have time, you can actually do a little trick to marinate faster. So you wanna whisk this up. You can use a whisk if you want. I'm just using what I have on hand here. So we'll put it in a nice tight little container so it marinades all the cubes. There we go, press them down. That is the trick to tofu because tofu basically tastes like cardboard. But if you marinate it, it will definitely absorb the flavors. Okay, so the trick for a quick marinade, if you don't have 1 to 2 hours, is put it in the microwave for, let me see here, 1 to 2 minutes and then cool for 15 minutes. So we'll put this in the microwave for, I'm gonna do 1.5 minutes and let it cool. Okay, see you in a minute. All right, so now we're going to take our pan. I like to use cast iron because it distributes the heat really, really well. And I find for me, it sautés food a little bit better. So you're gonna either use peanut oil or sesame oil, and you're gonna put about 1 tablespoon of that. Let it heat up, and you're going to start with your onion first, and you're going to saute that for about 3 to 5 minutes. So we'll let that go for 3 to 5 minutes, and I'll tell you about the rice. So before all of this started, I made, this is 1 cup of rice. I did wild and long grain rice. You can do whatever kind of rice you want. I like rices that are less processed, so not instant white rice. It doesn't have much nutritional value, but your less processed varieties do. So I actually did this in my instant pot. You can cook your rice however you like to cook it. And then when it's done, you take some parchment paper and you flatten it out. And this is kind of the key with fried rice, is you have to dry it out a little bit. So this has been drying out. You don't have to do it for very long. I'm just trying to loosen it up right now. This has been drying out for a couple of hours so that it kind of won't clump together when I'm doing the stir frying part of it. So I'll just put this to the side. And this is 2 to 3 minutes, and then I'm going to add my garlic and my garlic scape and let that go for another minute. Now you can see here, here's our marinated tofu. I did a quick marinade in the microwave, microwaved it for 1.5 minutes, made sure the marinade is covering all of that, and then it needs to cool for 15 minutes, okay? Okay, so now we're going to cook the tofu. I have another pan here, or you can do it in this one first and then put it aside. I have this on low. So you want to do your sesame or your olive oil, get it really, really hot. And then I discarded the marinade, so you want to strain out the marinade. And when it's hot, here, I'm just going to check to see if it's hot. Yeah, looks hot enough. So you want to fry these on each side until they're crispy. So, and they crisp up really nicely. So, and just put them nice and flat, and you want to get all 4 sides. So I use one of these turners. Okay, so we'll go back over to this pot. So now we can add our 1 cup of carrots. We can add our 1 cup of mushrooms, and then I'm going to grate in a whole bunch of ginger. You can grate in as much ginger as you would like. And we'll let both of those go for a few minutes. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so you can see the tofu gets a nice little crisp on it. So you want all 4 sides to be nice and crispy. Actually, it's not. I'm going to put it in for a little bit more because some of those sides aren't crispy yet. That's okay. All right, so over here, if you notice that this is starting to get dry, I just added a little bit more vegetable broth. I also steamed my rice with vegetable broth just to give it a little bit more flavor. You can do it with water or broth if you like. Then we're going to add in our 1 cup of celery. And since I don't have peas, I'm going to put snap peas. And then at the very end, I'll put in some water chestnuts. And then we will put it all together. Okay, so we have our tofu a little bit more crispy, so that's how we want it to look. So we'll put that to the side. You're going to cook your vegetables until they're nice and crispy. You don't want them too mushy because you want to have a little bit of crunch in your stir fry. So now we're going to just transfer them to a bowl for a minute. It's a really heavy pot. Yeah, you definitely don't want them mushy. This is not your traditional fried rice that you would get at a restaurant because it's very vegetable heavy, which is a good thing. So now we're going to turn this back on again. We are going to add some more of our peanut oil, and then we are going to fry up our rice. So about 1 tablespoon of peanut oil. And that just gives it the Asian flavor, but if you don't have peanut oil, you could use any oil if you want. Yeah, I like toasted sesame. Right, so now we're going to add this rice. And I just like to go like this to make it a little bit easier. Okay. And this is where, if you were using frozen or fresh peas, you would put those in, but I use the snap peas, so I put them in a tiny bit earlier. Okay, there we go. Making a bit of a mess here. Okay, so you're going to add about a tablespoon of soy. There we go. Fry it up until it gets a little bit brown, a little bit sort of dried out, and then you're going to add your vegetables. I can add my water chestnuts here because they don't really need to cook, they just need to kind of warm up. Again, those aren't in the recipe, but I love to add those, and sometimes I add the little wee corn in the can too. My daughter likes those. Okay, so now I can add my tofu. There we go. Put back in those vegetables. And again, they should have a little bit of crunch to them. Stir it all up. And there you have it, tofu fried rice. And now you're going to garnish your tofu fried rice with the green onions, just the white and the green parts.